Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Isha Bay. Today we're looking at the Joe Rogan podcast. They have Matt Walsh on here, and they're talking about when trans ideology became mainstream. That's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the ideas behind trans ideology, how it works, why it's been able to spread, and how this the same method, not trans ideology per se, but the way that it works, the framework that it works in, the ideas behind the ideology, and how they've already affected the black people in the country. So if you want to know what the future looks like for anyone that the community that the trans ideology is targeting, if you look at blacks in America, you will see your future. So you're gonna see me making a lot of comparisons. So if you're gonna look at this, if you are black, it'll help you understand what you're dealing with. And if you are not black, you can look at lessons from us and see what you're dealing with and what's coming down the road. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
What's the moment when all this exploded into the mainstream? It was like seeded into our institutions, and then there was a moment when it all became mainstream. And I don't know if Bruce Jenner is the definite starting point, but I do think that was a pivotal moment. It was a pivotal moment, not just because now the media is celebrating this, but also because conservatives, had an opportunity right then and there to take a stand against this, to recognize it for what it is, for the threat that it is, and to take a firm stand. And I think so many conservatives didn't, because they just imagine that this is either they don't want to get in trouble, be called a transphobe, or they just thought it's sort of a sideshow. And so many conservatives basically ignored it.
I don't think anybody realized it was going to get this big.
Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't, but I mean, it should have been more clear. I guess woulda, coulda, shoulda, but it should have been more clear, because they're waging an assault on like basic fundamental reality. And so it goes way beyond. This is not just about gender. This is about reality. That's why in the film.
Okay. So actually, let's listen to a little bit more of this, because the next thing he says is interesting. Just a moment.
Every conversation I had with someone on that side of it, every single one devolved into this. Well, what is truth, and who's truth, and how do you know what truth is? And,
yeah.
So I'm sitting in the same room as someone, but I can't get them to acknowledge that we exist in the same reality. We can share a room, but we don't share a reality. There was in the film. There's one woman that we talked to on the street, and she was giving me this "we all have our own truth" thing, and then I said, "Well, what if it's my truth that you don't exist?" And she said, "Well, then I don't exist." Like, she was willing to erase her own existence if that's how I perceive it.
Okay, so changing reality. So that's the first thing. So they're sitting here talking about that it's an assault on reality. So this has happened on a smaller scale. We were the testing ground. That's the reason we're not just messed up and like a broken people, no broken homes, broken families, just because that's what we do. We were blacks in America were married at a higher rate than Caucasians were up until the 60s. And then it went downhill. This also destroys this woke, idea that, part of the reason why we can't have families that stick together is because slavery really hurt us, and we're still have that generational trauma. Well, if that were the case, why the further back you go in time, the closer to slavery, the higher our marriage rates were, and we get more dysfunctional as we go further away. We get more dysfunctional the further you go after the civil rights movement and alleged victories that we had. So, the war on truth. Most people don't know this. So there's a movie called The Color Purple. The movie The Color Purple, and one thing you're going to notice is that one of the big themes, the way that you push this propaganda, the way that you create reality is through entertainment is the number one way to do it, okay? Keep in mind, most people get their points of references from history, like how the world works, how different country works, everything through entertainment. If you ask people about history, they didn't learn it in the history books. They're going to say women were oppressed. Well, how do you know women were oppressed? Women weren't allowed to do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. Well, on a day-to-day basis in a small village, who was the master oppressor of women? And how did that work if a woman invented something and then somebody beat her up? And how did that work? They have no idea. But the movie The Color Purple changed reality. And there were actually protests from black leadership at the time, back when it still existed. That we wanted to that they rejected that movie because it was creating a reality that didn't exist, putting an image on black men as abusers. If you've never seen the movie and you want to know how black women in general, not all, but how men are viewed, and now increasingly, as they'll say, cis white men are viewed, watch The Color Purple. Watch Mister. This is what they made us. This is what they made us into, and what they're currently working to make Caucasian men into is Mister. And he was a very stupid person, abusive, didn't see the value in women. There's just a stereotypical bad guy, or every man in every single feminist movie. If you watch She-Hulk, I'm sorry for your loss, but you'll get the point if you did. They created this idea for this man, and the powerful women and the men who were just so dumb they just held them back. Like, society would be so much better if men just went around. And they created that reality, starting with that movie. There were protests against that movie. No one else heard us. The Caucasians, Hispanics, no one else cared. It's just a movie. And now we live that movie. Well, women live that movie in their minds. And men, black men, are constantly fighting this, okay? Are constantly fighting this. But they change reality with entertainment. So this is why ideology, a big place is going to be spreading, is things like TikTok, right? Because the kids are watching it for their entertainment. YouTube, they're watching it for their entertainment. If you want to save your kids, keep them off of social media, boom, you're done. No news, no social media, you unplugged, you're free, okay? But but this is where they're getting it from. So they can change reality just like that. And so they did. We protested against it, didn't work, we lost. But they changed reality based off of entertainment. One of the craziest things when dealing with women, black women, and people I've spoken to personally, if you watch the Fresh and Fit podcast, one of the things when women are talking about oppression and how women can't get ahead or how men treat them, they will give you examples from movies. They can't name an example in their lives for the things that they believe and how they need to protect themselves from men. So they need to have make all this money and stuff like that, and so on and so on. They literally will give you quotes and examples from movies. I've had it done to me in my personal life when we're talking about a serious situation, male-female dynamics, family structure, politics, and here we go, giving me examples, feminist examples from movies like Baby Boy and things like that, and say that's just a movie. But it does. But that's the first thing. So they create reality with entertainment. It is not just entertainment. People used to think I was crazy. Whenever I was a teenager, I would get very upset about certain movies they put on. I don't want to watch this. This is dumb. It's just a movie. Turn it off. I don't like that garbage. I didn't listen to rap on the radio when I was younger. I hated it. Turn it off, man. It doesn't sound like music. It didn't sound like music to me. It sounded like instructions. It sounded like a how to live. I didn't like it. I was very aggressive towards it. And people, even including my family, thought I was out of my mind. It's just a song. It's just music. But it's not. It's just a video that they're watching on TikTok. Where do you think they got these Zimzer, her, all these things from? It's from there. Most people don't come up with this themselves. I'm a cat now. Trans this, trans that. They didn't come up with this from. They said it's not something that they felt themselves. But let's jump into it more, and we'll dive into it more. But number one, reality is created via entertainment. This is why you should be very careful what your children watch. This is why you should. One of the biggest things that I got called out on, judgmental, shallow, trashy. I used to judge the women that I would deal with. I would stop talking to them based off of the television shows and the music, the artists that they listen to. Who's your favorite artist? And if I heard the wrong thing or if they watched the wrong TV shows, I would instantly cut them off. Because one thing you have to realize about people is their entertainment is their reality. Their entertainment is their reality. What's your favorite movie? Oh, my favorite movie is The Color Purple. It was very nice to meet you. What's your favorite movie? Baby Boy. Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite artist? Rihanna. Oh, that's bad. Listen to the songs. Listen to the image that they put out there. Okay, and ask me if that's who you want your daughter to be when she grows up. And it's gonna be no. Ask him the music with the guys. Is that who you want your son to be? It's no. But remember that their entertainment is their reality, and you can tell who they are by listening, just seeing what they look at. And I used to judge people very harshly and would immediately stop. If a woman told me she watched the Kardashians 2 or 3 times a month, that's a woman that I wouldn't deal with. I wouldn't do it. And people might think that's silly, but that's her reality. And you tell me how your relationship with her went. It's probably going to go exactly like a reality TV show. Reality creates, their entertainment creates their reality. Let's go for a bit more.
It's totally incoherent.
I found out about the reaction that people have to this and how strongly they're committed to this when there was a transgender fighter that was hiding the fact, Found Fox, was hiding the fact that they were biologically male and competed twice as a woman, beating the fuck out of these women. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, you can't, and trying to say that it was just a medical procedure. And when I thought rightly got angry at it, I saw all these articles written, all these pieces about how transphobic my position was and what a horrible person I was. Like, we're literally talking about someone not telling someone. I said that, look, if you are a transgender athlete and you tell someone, hey, I was biologically male, but now identify as a female, would you like to fight? And that person still says yes, all in. Go ahead, have fun. Just like I think you should be able to ride bulls and go dirt biking and skydiving, do whatever wild, dangerous shit you want to do. But to hide the fact that you're biologically male and you were a male for 30 plus years, that was madness to me. But they had already drawn this line in the sand. And I remember arguing with someone on Twitter about it when this woman said she was always a woman. I go, even when this person impregnated a woman and had a child with them, she's like, even then. Like, even then. She stuck her penis in a woman, got her pregnant.
That's a science.
Became
Follow
a
the
father.
science, yeah.
And even that, during that act, she was a woman. Like, what is a woman? What the fuck are we talking about?
What they're really saying is that this person, they're talking about self-perception. Like, this person perceived himself that way. But self-perception is not always reality. This, like, of course, we all, in most other contexts, we recognize that a person can have a self-perception that just is not true. It's just inaccurate. I mean, you could walk down the street in any city and find drug-addled homeless people talking to themselves. And if you were to ask them about themselves, they're going to say a lot of things that just don't line up with reality. And in every other context, we're allowed to acknowledge that, even in medical context. I mean, someone who has body dysmorphia in the form of anorexia, a young woman goes to the doctor and she's 90 pounds and she says, I feel like I'm a 300-pound, fat ass.
Yeah.
The doctor's not going to affirm that and say, well, if that's how you feel, it's how you. Fatness is on a spectrum. I mean, they're not going to give her diet pills. They're going to.
But why gender? Like, why is gender this ideological battleground? Like, how the fuck did that become this thing where it's encouraging, like, this cult-like mentality?
Okay, so this is important. So why gender? Okay, why gender? It's really simple. Why gender? The first thing is, you have to remember is diversity is their strength, because diversity allows you to divide. And the oldest trick in the book for getting power for yourself is to divide and conquer. So this is why diversity is their strength. Okay. So with the blacks in America, what they were able to do were separate one group of people, black people, into women and children, and then men. So you were able to separate the one group and give two identities. So they're black women, if they're strong black women, and then there's the N words and S words over there, and we're in competition. They need a man that's going to do as good as them. Okay, so they separated us, and and it was the most successful separation. You have to remember, divide and conquer. It's all the same. You got to throw concepts like racism out the window. This all goes to this. This is power politics, right? This goes back to geopolitics, power politics, the great chess game, right? Think about it. In Britain, right? When the Brits and the United Kingdom in the UK, when there was the Brits were fighting the Scottish, they treated the Scottish horribly. You should look it up. Okay, it was horrible how the Brits treated the Scots. They fought wars for how long? Hundreds of years, and they treated them horribly. They would sleep with their wives before they got a chance to, right? They would enslave those people. They wouldn't let them read. They treated them very much like slaves. It was a giant internment camp. That entire place is basically what it was. That's why they were warring for years. Not until they came here, and they needed that. Then they had people who look a lot more different. Then they went and they said, okay, we don't like that group. There used to be signs at jobs, no Irish. They wouldn't hire Irish. No Irish. They would hire black people, but no Irish. This is the United States. This is 150 years ago, 200 years ago, when the Irish were coming over. No Irish. They didn't like the Irish. And then they go, but then it switched. We needed to divide. We needed power. How do we do that? We can put this group against that group. So now we'll tell the Irish that they're like us now. Okay, they're enough like us. They look more like us than those. So now we'll divide like this. Hey, you're on our side. They're over there. But what happens? Okay, so you divide the groups. Divide. You're coming off of the civil rights movement, where you had the Black Panthers, you had the KKK being a big role. You got that. You played that out. That was going on. Cool. Came to a head. Civil rights. Okay, now what? Now, how can we divide people further? Because the one thing about divide and conquer, the one thing about going to the way to the right or way to the left, you eventually hit your goal. You can't just your goal. You're gonna hit your goal eventually, right? You're gonna hit the point that you were fighting for. Like, for example, feminism. We want equal rights. Cool. Now women have more rights than men. What do you mean? Women have more rights than men because women have, in a lot of places in the country, and up until recently, they had they could get abortions where men couldn't get abortions. So women had the power over life and death, and women are generally, given the children if there's a divorce. So, hey, it's Tuesday, I'm leaving, I'm taking your children. That gives women have power over men. You could bring a kingdom to his knees. If you're looking at the Great Britain, and you had the heir to the throne, and you had a gun to his head, you could get some concessions. So if you could bring a nation to its knees, and a superpower, an empire to his knees, then the guy that works at FedEx, holding his kid hostage, you'll be able to get it. But then also you could just hit him with child support as well. So women have had this power. So women have more rights and more powers than men do in society. So where do you go? How do you do? You won. Now you're going past it. Now it's not about the rules. It's not about equality. It's not about equality. It's not about equality of options. Now it's about equality of outcomes. Meaning we want the exact same outcomes that you have. but not the bad outcomes, only the good outcomes. We want the exact same good outcomes that you have, but we want none of the bad. It gets to be absurd. And now, even when women on average, if they have never been married and they have worked consistently in this field as long as men, they typically earn more money. But the problem now is it's not even that they're just doing better. It's not even that. It's, hey, you know what? We got to work on the way that women feel. We got to make sure that they feel like they can do it. So we have to go out to tens of millions of individual women and make sure that they feel encouraged. Because if they don't, then they're being oppressed, and that's why we need feminism. So you see, it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. There's no, you have to get more and more ridiculous. If you win and you don't want to become irrelevant, then you need to fight a new war. That means you need to go further and further and further and further into insanity. But back to it. So diversity is their strength because that gives them the ability to divide. But when you have one group of people, what can you do? You got one big difference. Men, women. Split them into two separate people. I always, if I speak with a black feminist, I'm always, they're talking about the wage gap, and they'll be talking to me, they'll talk to other black men, and they'll say men in general. And it's always funny to me because Caucasian women make more money on average than black men do. So if black feminists decided that they wanted to become, social justice warriors for racism first, if they just got paid what white women got paid, they would actually make more money than if they got on the same level as black men as their counterparts. So if they got paid as much as a black man, they would get paid less than a Caucasian woman on average with the career. But then still, even at that point, even if they fought and they got to the same point, so you got the male and female counterparts. If they would still be making less. But even if they made the same amount as white women, they still be making less than Asian women. Asian women and Asian men make more than Caucasian men and Caucasian women, and Caucasian men and Caucasian women make more money than African American men and African American women. So financially, if you're looking at get into a standard of group, which you're not going to be looking at getting to where women are in general, because the men and women of these two categories, they rise and fall together. Because Hispanic men and women they make less than black men and women, right? So just logically, if you're trying to achieve a goal, you're going to look at that and go, wow, we need to get to where maybe Asians are. But they don't do that. They say, well, we want to earn as much as a man. How much? As a Hispanic man? You want to earn as much as a black man? Because both of those men still make less than women. They and then their brains will still go on the fritz and say, well, no, race shouldn't matter. Or neither should sex. So why are we talking about any of it? It doesn't make any sense. But the reason why sex is because they were able to completely sever the identity and for black people from black men to black women and children. They split the group, and now as a collective, black people have no power, have no political power, have no concerted, organized financial power, and are completely and utterly at the whims of the powers that be. That the state that we're in is, as a group, is the state that they would like all of America in. And the one thing that got them there was the division on with sex. That is why, because they ran the test on the black population, worked beautifully. Everything, if everyone was like us, nobody would have savings. Everyone would be dependent on the government. Okay, and they would have no strong families. All right, the state would be able to raise the children completely, and it would just be a huge win. And that's why they have enlisted feminists to help them. So what do? First, you tell people that men and women, that there's no difference between the two. There's no difference between men and women. Okay, so you erase male nature. And how do you do that? You erase male nature, and you tell women that all men should be just like you. They should want like you. And if they don't want the things that you want, if they're not looking on the inside, and they're not considering how tall someone is and how much money they make, and if you can protect them and if they can provide, if they're not looking at the things that you're looking at, then they're shallow, they're terrible, and they're bad people. You tell the people, tell people that that men are bad and everything about men is bad. Problem with that, especially in the black community, this is where they really got us, is that all that sick, toxic logic, that holding people accountable, the unemotional decision making, that's all toxic. Only feminine is positive. Only feminine is positive. Only empathy is positive. But rational thought, not so much. Everything masculine is negative. Logic is bad. Okay? Logic is toxic. So now if you say that you have these feelings and someone else doesn't acknowledge those feelings, and by acknowledge them, they mean state that they are real as a fact, that they are in the real world, then that person is embedded. So if a person is masculine, then they are inherently a threat to the world. So they must be isolated, eliminated, moved to the side. They're a problem. That happens in the black community. Masculine men are, it's that being a masculine man is one of the worst things that you could ever be. I, from myself, I have been completely isolated as far as like the black community. I've been completely isolated because I was a masculine guy and I didn't know what the problem was. I used to think it was something wrong with me, you know, because I call them independently red pilled, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, and not like, you know, a lot of guys have red pill idea, this, that. When I say red pill, I specifically mean they just accept the truth of the world. They view information objectively, accept facts and reality, accept data, all right? And that's it. That's what they do. They just accept the world for how it is, and they decide that they're going to work in it, within the world, within nature. That's what I say when I say red pill. And doing that made it bad. I recall having a conversation when I was a kid, and I was like, "Well, people with money can be better parents." And then someone came back and they said, "No, they can't." What? What if they don't love their kids? What if they don't this? What if they don't? I was like, okay. Well, I'm talking about the same person. If you got one person that makes $25,000 a year and another person who makes $100,000 a year, but let's say it's the same exact person, the only thing that changes their finances, that same loving parent, they could make, they could be better parents. I was just being objective. What's a parent's duty to provide? Can you provide better food if you make 4 times as much money? Yeah. It's to provide protection. Can you live in a better neighborhood where they'll be safer? Yeah. Well, these are things that are giving you better parent points, right? Poor parents, poor people can't be good parents, and only rich people, blah blah blah. No, they can absolutely do the best they can, and they could be amazing parents because things are relative. So if you grow up in the hood or in the ghetto, and you get your kids to Harvard, and or you were King James or like Serena Williams' father, that's a dad. He worked it. He pulled that together. It means that like these people have a greater capacity to fulfill the desires to make life better for their children. They just have the capacity to do it. And actions are better than words or feelings. Sorry. So they didn't just feel it. They could take the actions because they had the finances to do it. So if you look at them on paper, they're better parents. And some people will say, well, you know what they want to do, what wanting to do is something completely different. Ask women. They leave men and the men want to provide for them. The men want to give them the world, but the men just can't. So women, at a rate of 80%, divorce their husbands to go find better. Doesn't matter what us men think. But, you know, if you let the feminine world order tell you, they'll tell you, well, it's all about the feelings, you know, about how you feel and how you see yourself in the world, and people should respect that. If that were true, then the feminists would be screaming at each other, saying, "Hey, why are you leaving men if you go to college? Why are you filing divorce?" And 90% of the time, out of the 50% divorce rate, 90% of the time, if you have a college degree, why aren't you accepting these men for how they feel, how they identify? They think they're good husbands, so you should respect that they're good husbands, and you should be there for them, and you should cook them a meal every single night. That would be absurd. They would toss it in your face. But back to the main point, the reason that they chose gender is because on the test, the experiment that they did with the black community, it was the most successful thing they ever saw. So now they're doing it to everyone. So now everybody can get the treatment. But they're not just going, oh, men are bad. You got, N words ain't S word, but now you got cis white males. So now they're pushing it to everyone. So now they're just gonna export it. The product was cooked, baked, it was made with us, and now it's going on to the next group of people. And one of the hallmarks is that facts aren't real. That I did a video before, and it was all about opinions and how one of the tenets of feminism, and really is of it, the source of feminism and all this woke stuff is just I call them divisionists because they come in and they divide and conquer. They separated black men and black women, completely conquered, broke the family, and now we are completely dependent on the government. There's no fathers to raise a son, so there's no logic. There's no masculine leadership as a group. So we move around aimlessly. There's no another thing that women in their nature don't like is that some people are better than other people and some people are above other people. A feminine idea would be let's all, everyone's equal. Well, not men. We don't think that way. We get on the football team. We got a football coach. All right. And when we play, we know the strongest guy, the smartest guy, the guy who gets the most ladies, the guy who makes the most money. It's clear. And we know this guy's up here and we want to be like him. Or we're that guy, and other people want to be like us. That's how it is. And there's a hierarchy. And men understand hierarchy and understand that all men are not on the same level. Women would like to believe that everyone is on the same level. They don't want anyone to be over them, to be over them, while at the same time lording over their men and their children. So the reason why transgender rights is because it was the most successful in the previous experiment, and now they're just going to export it to the rest of the country. Okay, so let's listen to a bit more.
Where you cannot, even if things are clearly
And
odd,
I'll be right back.
clearly don't make any sense. They don't fit with logic or reality. You have to adhere to whatever this ideology is promoting.
I think it's. I mean, at a most basic level, I think that this is like I said, this is an attack on truth, and this is, if you want to, if your project is is relativism, and you want to get rid of objective ideas of truth, what are you going to go after? I mean, if you can go after someone's really fundamental understanding of themselves, it's not just that they're attacking reality; it's like they're attacking the reality of the self. And so they're depriving a person of the ability to understand themselves. And once you do that, if you're successful on a societal level, then it's sort of like the sky's the limit. You can go anywhere from there.
Yeah. And hey guys, and I'm not saying, I'm not going, hey, these guys are racist and all of this stuff. That's not what I'm saying. One day I'll break down my ideas on racism and all that kind of stuff. But I'm saying that it's not that they were racist, that they were coming towards us, towards, black people or whatnot. The thing is that the powers that be have to keep all groups in line. And now they're doing it to everyone, but before they were testing it on us. We were an easier target, right? And they tested things on us, and now they're just going to export them. So it's not, oh, woe is me, so on and so on. We were just the first group targeted for for the removal of structure, okay? And so black women lost, they in general, not all. So when I say black women or I say this, it's in general. Of course, you can't speak in absolutes. Nothing's 100%, okay? But black women, you ask black men, hey, do black women respect you? Absolutely not as a man. No, they took that away. Respect it, and for black people, and this is what it's getting to. There's contempt for the men. Okay, there's absolute contempt for them, and it's the cis white male, so on and so on. It's just duplicating it. So listen to the crap music, the hypersexualization. All right, the down with we don't need. There's documentaries going back to the '60s and '70s talking about they don't need dads. We don't really. I did it myself. Single moms this and single moms that and yada yada yada. The same thing is happening on a large scale to decimate the larger community, the entirety of the United States, versus us. We were just test subjects, okay? We were just test subjects, and now it's going to everyone. But one of the tenets of this, of divisionist, woke, super far left feminism, is that there is no objective reality. Okay, that started way before transgenders, transgender ideology. One of the things that you may recall is that you'll hear women say this all the time, and they didn't just pick this up. This wasn't an accident. This is intentional. That I'm a strong, opinionated woman. I'm very opinionated. All right, and it's a badge of honor. And I've done this before. Let's look this up again. Okay, and it's the worst thing ever. Okay. Because what is an opinion? An opinion is a view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. All right? That's it. A view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. So they have women run around and they say, hey, the big thing for you is to be strong and opinionated. And men find that attractive. It makes you stronger, makes you smarter, and you should defend your opinions. Everyone has a right to an opinion, and you have the right to have your opinion heard. Yada yada yada. You have the right to have your uninformed, random thoughts, and to aggressively put those on other people. Other people should listen to your opinions on things. But most of the time, keep in mind, most of the time, these things are going to be, they're going to be unwelcomed opinions at that, and they're going to come with a lot of moral superiority, an air of arrogance. While they come and they tell you these are my opinions, and you can't tell me anything about. And what they're really saying is these are unsubstantiated things. These are unsubstantiated claims I'm making. I have no knowledge. I have no experience. But I'm going to say these things. It's like walking into a mechanic's shop, never looking at a car, don't know small engines, and you go in there and you make donuts. That's your job. That's the only thing you know about, donuts. And you go in there and you start telling them about cars. No, well, it doesn't really matter if you put gasoline or diesel in it. It doesn't really matter. I don't know. They're going to shut the hell up and get the hell out. What is your problem? But they literally tell people to, and then let's look at another one. So that was, okay. Lack of knowledge or information, which is required to have an opinion, because it can't be based on fact or knowledge. So you have to be ignorant of something to have an opinion. So the goal is they want you to come in and have this. They want you to come in and literally just throw your ignorance around. One of the tenets of feminism are to be proud of your ignorance and to afflict people with your ignorance. And they should respect your ignorance. And because you're opinionated, that that you toss your ignorance around. That's insane. If you just think about the insanity behind that, but they accomplished it, and now the world is set as such that there is, especially for black men, the world that we live in is one without rhyme or reason. Ignorance is thrown around as a badge of honor. And it is cheered. It is cheered. And now they're just exporting this to the greater world. Okay? It works so well. So now, the fact that you don't operate in reality, don't know about reality, and don't care about your lack of knowledge about reality is a virtue. And anyone who comes to you, those anything it's coming from a masculine perspective, all right, of rationale, reason, low emotional input, low empathy, rational fact. That's it. Those are bad people with low morals. So you'll also get the question, well, but should it be that way? Well, it shouldn't really be that way, but and that's it. And that's because facts don't matter. So this has been done through. So feminism was used to split the black people from the men and the women, and it was so successful. That is why gender is the target because the next goal is to split the genders for everyone. And Goldman Sachs has already said that 45% of women, marriage age women, okay, I guess above 18, 45% of them are going to be single and childless. And that's going to be forever. Single and childless forever. Goldman Sachs is giving their investors, hey, this is what you need to invest in because they already see that they are going to win. They already see that they're winning. They already won with on a smaller scale, and now they're just taking it to the larger group. Let's finish this
This is
out.
like a conscious decision, or do you think this is just something that people have adopted because it seems to be the ideology du jour?
I think it depends on who you're talking about. I mean, at an institutional level, I think a lot of it is conscious. I think some of the people that I talked to in the film, I think that they know that this doesn't make any sense and that it's wrong.
Absolutely.
And I think because they have to know it. You know, if you're a doctor, like, you do have a basic understanding of male and female. You must. You wouldn't have been able to get through medical school if you don't. So I think that for them, it's intensely ideological. It's also profit driven. They're making a lot of money off of this. You know, if a 6-year-old boy says, "I feel like I'm a girl," and the response to the boy is, "No, you're a boy, and that's what you are, and that's okay," and he'll get over it, because it's just a phase, and he'll live a normal life, and that's fine. But there's no money in that. Whereas if you encourage the delusion, now that boy individually is worth millions of dollars down the line to therapists and doctors and endocrinologists and surgeons and everything. So I think it's profit driven. And then there's also just a lot of actual confusion out there. People don't really understand what's going on. And then there's cowardice too. People are just terrified. You know, I've certainly seen a lot of that. People just they are scared shitless about being accused of bigotry,
Yeah.
losing their social media platforms, losing their jobs, losing their friends. I get this.
You just for us, it came before was now you guys are seeing it too. Like we are intimidated. You're intimidated by a woman that has her own opinion. Is like a big window. You're intimidated. You can't handle a real woman. You know, you want somebody young and weak and broken. So you start to get shamed. The people who toss around things like fat shaming and all of this and all that, they shame you the hardest, of course, because they're just projecting when they say these things. But that's 100% right.
Question all the time, everywhere I go. Well, how do I deal with this at my job? Because if I reveal that I understand reality at my job, I'll lose my job or I'll lose my family. You know, this is what people are dealing with.
And it is what people are dealing with. That really is what's happening, which is one of the more confusing aspects of this, is that there's no logical discussion about this. It's just you are either on the good side or you're a bigot, and that's the binary.
Yeah, and that's because they know that they can't. The people that are pushing this stuff know that they can't defend it. They can't defend it intellectually. They also feel like they shouldn't have to.
And that was it for that one. And that's right. They feel that way. One thing I noticed about commentators in the center or going to the left, going to the right, they like or just conservatives. Let's just say conservatives. Kevin Samuels was a conservative. You know, a traditional person. That's pretty much all in it, just traditional values. And these people, conservatives, they're logic driven. They live in the real world, and so they like to invite people to talk. Louder with Crowder. They like to invite people to talk, and they will talk to anyone. But people on the left, like The View, they will not invite just anyone up. You just can't go to them. If they invited Matt Walsh to The View, he would be there yesterday, and he would be up there talking. But if he invited them to his show, if they can't cut his mic, drown him out, it's not going to happen. They're not going to have a conversation and let him speak. But if you're a conservative, and they're not a Republican, but if you're a conservative and you just let anyone else speak, it's just not going to make sense, because they say traditional, but I really think the word should be natural, because all traditional people do is just live in line with nature. So if you're not a conservative, then you are living outside of nature to a degree. And I believe just being a conservative, their goal is to live. It's just people traditionally lived in line with nature, and that's the only way that we could survive. And now people want to transcend nature. So I see they want to transcend their humanity. They don't want to be human. They tell you to be human, but what they really want you to do is to stop being human. They want you to transcend it. All men should transcend being a man. You shouldn't look at attractive women. No matter if they're even trying to get your attention. You shouldn't have a sex drive. You shouldn't have an opinion. You shouldn't have anything to do with the male side, because that's all bad. But women, it's that we can understand that they want to feel safe, why they feel threatened, that they want to protect their children, that they want this, that they want that, every single thing. But men, there's not one natural urge that you have. You'll also hear that it's all driven by society. So just to recap, the trans ideology is just divisionism. They're just divisionists. It's just divide and conquer. It's to usurp more power and extract more resources. And it's the only one thing that you can get, because you need men and women. So no matter if everyone's this exact same race, right? Doesn't matter if everyone has the exact same background. Doesn't matter if you were in Germany, and Germany closed its borders for 5,000 years, and there were only Germans in Germany, and everyone looked darn near exactly the same. You could still split the men and women. So if you can attack gender, because you need both, so both will always be everywhere, you can divide any group at any time. That's why it's perfect. You're not always lucky enough to have somebody who's a little bit lighter, a little bit darker, somebody with some green eyes, somebody with some red hair. You're not able to get that all the time. But what you will get is that if there's a person that exists, it's because they have a mother and a father. You can split those, and that's it. It is just the most available. That is why they do it. And they practiced on African Americans, and it worked. They completely separated us on sex, and they took the game to another level. They decided that just splitting men off of gender was not enough. They now, because they created more diversity, this is artificial diversity, a divisionist dream. They created diversity where there was none. Now, even if you have a group of all blonde, blue-eyed, Caucasian women in a room that were all the same height, all had children and no children, all were married and not married, you can still slide them into, oh, well, this person is trans, this person feels this, this person used this pronouns, these person used this pronouns. You can still create a very diverse group where there is no real division, no real diversity. But you now have created a very diverse environment artificially. And now you can separate those people and gain even more power from them by destroying their unity, which is why I say there's no black community, because they completely destroyed our unity, and now they're on to everyone else, so that no one would be able to challenge them at any time. And that's pretty much it. That's how the cookie crumbles. So black men, that's what you're dealing with. So whenever someone says, I had this conversation before, they're like, oh, well, you can't get your woman and this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, if you're a black man, you felt the brunt of this. Now, Caucasians are coming in and they're starting to feel it and they're fighting back and they're saying, well, this is crazy. Well, we're what, 60 years in the game? 70, yeah, 60 years in the game. Since the 60s, we've been rocking and rolling, man. And and you're fighting against a well-oiled machine. So if you want a good life as a man today, you need to be a well-oiled machine. You can't be an average man. Can't fight this, and this is the reason why. Women can see that the average guy is overwhelmed, overrun, and he can't account for the war that's being waged against him. So this is why only high value men have a say in most things, because they're the only ones that can resist the world. And really, to create their own world within a world where logic and reason can exist. And that's why women flock to those guys. But hey, that's it for me tonight. It's running a little long. Make sure to check your subscription on the page so you can catch the next video. Make sure to comment, man. If you think I got something, if I was right on the ball, if I was on the money, let me know. If I was off, if I missed something. Sometimes I ramble, so guys, if I might have trailed off. But go ahead, man. Leaving those comments, and I'm doing one-on-ones, free one-on-ones for anyone who want to talk to you. Got some stuff that you want to talk out. My goal is to help as many men and women as I possibly can, to get the divisionists out of the way, so you can get some unity in your life. You can get some peace. All you have to do is follow me on YouTube here. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram and shoot me a message, and I'll be looking out for you. I'll see you next time.